So that sister that you gave dawah to, she's now come back to you and said, what about my non-Muslim husband? What happens now? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So this is a very delicate situation that you're faced with. Sister you've been giving da'wah to, or a new Muslimah, she comes to you and she wants advice. She's married to a guy. It doesn't at this moment matter whether what religion he is. It could be an atheist, agnostic, a Buddhist, a Jewish, Christian. It doesn't matter. Maybe there's even kids involved as well. She's become Muslim. She's been receiving dawah for a while. She's now convinced of it. And now she wants to know, after she's just been told on the street that, hey, you do realize that it's not permissible for a Muslim woman to remain married to a non-Muslim man. What happens now? First of all, let's get the facts straight. There's no doubt that it is not permissible by consensus of every single school of law and every scholar ever that a Muslim woman who is already Muslim initiates a new marriage contract, i.e., gets married to a non Muslim man. That's something which is completely impermissible. So let's get that super clear. The issue that we're talking about, though, is someone who's already married. Let's say 10 years they had the marriage in a normal kind of church and civil marriage registered and everything. Standard setup in the West. Normal married couple, happily married couple, and also I want to add usually a dependent married couple, meaning that she is pretty much dependent upon her husband for the income and for the for the makeup of the house and looking after the children and so on and so forth. A general normal 2.4 kind of situation. So we have to ask ourselves, is it permissible now for this woman to remain in this relationship? The answer is that in principle, no. There's actually no difference in principle whether a woman is already married or is going to make a new marital contract. It's not permissible for her to be in this relationship. However, there is a actual difference. We see when we say the statement in principle, that's before we get to the details. So in principle, a woman is not allowed, a Muslim woman is not allowed to be married to a non-Muslim man. However, there is a difference, and there's no doubt that there's a difference, practically speaking and theoretically speaking, and also importantly from the evidence as well. There is a difference between someone who is in an existing relationship and those that are about to initiate one. We've already said that those who want to initiate a relationship, that's completely impermissible, and she must be completely advised against that, and she must not be allowed to go and do that or believe that she's allowed to do that. And that's something which you can pass on. But this woman who's coming to you is someone who's been married already in a relationship for many years, legal relationship and so on. The answer to this question is based upon her needs. You see, the concept of Adh-Dharurah, or the necessity, is a very interesting one in Islam. It's a concept which is so powerful that it can sometimes overturn the prohibited matters. Not always permanently, but certainly temporarily. It's possible to get a reprieve on an existing ruling, which is to say something is prohibited, but because of the necessity, then one is allowed to do that action for a small period of time or in a small amount. For example, if you are starving, it is permissible for you to eat pork. If a person is unable to pray and it's obligatory to pray standing, then it's permissible for them to pray sitting. Or if they are chained up, then it's permissible to pray with your eye movements, for example, as mentioned by the fuqaha, the scholars of Islam. So the concept of necessity is very powerful and it exists in our Sharia, and it is going to come into play here as well. So in order to answer this question, you need to understand that the general rule is clear, it's not permissible. But the individual ruling will be based upon the ability of this young or this old but certainly new Muslimah. It's about her ability in terms of her deen, how strong her iman is. Can she handle at this moment being told that it's part of being Muslim, that you are not allowed to be married to a non-Muslim? Many women, as soon as they hear that, it'll be straight out of the religion. They will choose their partner over the religion every day of the week. So this is down to your her iman, her faith, and how strong she is. There are other new new Muslim women who are actually super firm on their faith and come with great conviction and are absolutely desperately happy to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if they were told this, they would have no hesitation and they would say to their partner very simply, and we're not being callous here, don't always think negatively, don't think, right, you're divorced, okay? What about instead that I just want to say to you that you know that I've loved you for and looked after you for a long, long period of time, and I want to carry that relationship forward, and this is where I am, and this is where you are, and I want you to move your position, and this is the reason why, and start a process of da'wah, and with a good hope for them to become Muslim. Let's take a really super positive spin on this, and let's say that she goes back and says to the husband that yes, are you ready? And he goes, absolutely. I was always thinking about that as well. And maybe that the conversion of his wife was the little kind of the tipping point, if you like. Then alhamdulillah, we now have a legitimate situation where we have a Muslim male and a Muslim female. And the question arises, do they need to establish a new marital contract? The answer to that is no. Their existing marital contract is sufficient because it's legally recognized in the country and in the society and in their religion. And we as Muslims in Islamic law, we recognize legitimate contracts. We recognize legitimate contracts. However, that's going to be a rare scenario where suddenly the husband's happy to become a Muslim as well. That's not really going to happen. So let's assume that he's not interested in this at the moment. However, the Muslimah, she feels confident that, you know, with a little bit of time, she can do something. She's got this ability to work on him. She feels that, you know what, I think this can happen, and so on. Well, we need to answer some really frank questions. First of all, of course, she's spending time alone with him. And potentially, of course, there are the conjugal rights as well. And so there might be sexual activity as well, which is, of course, the right of the husband in any form of marriage to expect that. So is it permissible for him? Is it permissible for her to allow him to receive his conjugal rights, for him to have his sexual rights of the marriage? This is a matter of difference amongst the scholars. As I said, in principle, they don't allow this relationship even to be in existence where there is a Muslim woman with a non-Muslim man. However, there is a narration, a very interesting narration from Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he gave a fatwa once to a Muslim woman who became, she was a Christian, she became a Muslimah, a new Muslim, and her husband was still Christian. And he allowed her to remain with her husband because of his conjugal rights. He said that his rights for the sexual side of marriage, his rights will not be removed just because of this marriage. He still has a right to that, to receive that. So that's a very interesting caveat. And so therefore, if we combine this fatwa with an authentic narration that we know from Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, who did allow a woman who became Muslim the option of remaining or leaving her husband, and she decided to remain with him. If we look at these narrations and we look at the situation that we're in, normally this is going to be in a non-Muslim country. We're not in a position of power where we are able to give extra supplements and extra support. And I know firsthand just how difficult that is. How many new Muslim sisters I've seen that they've left their previous husbands, and most of those decisions were common sense ones that they didn't have any doubt about. The husband was not good for her, wasn't someone that she wanted to continue in a relationship with anyway, so it was easy for her to make that decision. It was easy for her to drop that person, and that person didn't want to be with her anyway, and so they come and then they're in need of house and support and so on. And for us to collect for those people is unbelievably difficult. If we want to collect for Syria or for Burma or for emergencies abroad, no problem, tens of thousands of pounds keep coming in. Once you want to actually support our sisters, those who are in need, those who need a home and so on, and locally we do support. I'm involved in some projects that do try to support them. I can tell you firsthand just how difficult it is to raise money for these people. This has to have an impact upon the ruling. If we know that we as a Muslim community are not able to look after these sisters, then what are we exactly expecting? For them to just leave their husband and the one who looks after them? We're not going to look after them either, and then just leave them to their own devices for what? What's going to happen to them? This is not Islam. This is not from the maqasid al-sharia. We are not actually achieving what Islam actually sets out to achieve, which is stability, which is contentment, which is a confidence and security in one's own self and in one's own surroundings. It's for this reason that a number of the fatwa councils, they had to take on this question, and they thought about it a lot. They looked at the different kind of opinions and so on and so forth, and they basically gave the following position. It's something which I wholeheartedly endorse. We can effectively summarize that if a woman is able to leave a relationship after giving da'wah to the husband and saying, listen, I cannot stay with you because of my religion, and I'd like you to become Muslim desperately because you are my life partner. This is why I chose you before, and for you to become Muslim would be just absolutely awesome, and we could take it to another level and give proper quality da'wah exactly where it really will impact. Then that's what she should do, and that's what she must try. And if she is successful and he becomes Muslim, alhamdulillah, they remain husband and wife. Nothing new needs to be done, and they carry on and enjoy the rest of their lives as Muslims, alhamdulillah. If she believes that that's not going to happen, but there's a good hope, and she also knows that she cannot survive without him at the moment. She's going to be kicked out. She doesn't have income. She doesn't have house. Then who's going to look after her children? Because if she goes, then there'll be no one to look after the children and be a positive influence for them. They're young. Then they're going to remain with him, and they could go another way. So there's a lot of factors in play. She's confident that if I stay with this man, he's a good man. He's got good morals. I've got a good chance of actually slowly, it might take some time, but slowly getting to him. Inshallah, slowly I can get through to him. Then it is permissible, because of the children and the fact that she's hopeful that she can bring them up as Muslims, because she's hopeful that her husband will not stop her doing it, because she knows that her husband's not going to abuse her or stop her from praying or stop her from wearing hijab. If she knows all of these things are a possibility and a reality, she can practice her deen, then I believe that it is permissible, because of the need, because of the extenuating circumstances, for her to remain in this relationship with her husband with all of the caveats that I mentioned. Inshallah, it is permissible, and she's not doing some we will not judge her for this course of action. We are not able to support her in any other way, and this is possibly what is best for her and her own iman, and we are always to judge and give rulings according to the ability and the iman of the person that we are speaking to. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.